the smoke-filled clouds of the 303, all the way down to the 505. This is the Dro Bro Show with Remo Vinci, Grimx, and Soul Doja. Yeah, the Dro Bro Show.
Mr. Vicious Remo Vinci and my fellas Grimx and Soul Doja, and we're back with episode 3 of the Dro Bro Show. And go ahead and say what's up, fellas.
What's up? It's your boy Soul Doja. Ready to get this.
How's it going at Grimx? Thank you for joining this week.
Absolutely, and we've got a special one for you guys this week. But before we get into it, I want to get into a little bit of housekeeping from last week, because we were drawing a bunch of blanks when it came to Tupac, and we were having a little bit of a hard time with some of our facts there. So I had to look it up in the meantime, because I felt like some of our stuff was off anyway. And I wasn't sure if you guys were aware, but did you know that he had changed his name when he was very young still, and his actual birth name was Lassane Crooks? Are you guys aware of that?
No.
I know, that's crazy, right? I'd actually learned that not too long ago, and I had to look it up again because I couldn't remember what the name was exactly. So Lassane Crooks was Tupac's original birth name. How crazy is that? And then they changed it a little bit later. But that was one of the facts I wanted to talk about. And then we were talking about how Yaki Gaddafi, Grim was talking about how that was a stepbrother. I had to look that up because it didn't sound right to me, because I wasn't sure. And I was right that Mopreme was a stepbrother, but Yaki Gaddafi, his parents were actually both part of the Black Panthers, just like Afeni Shakur was, and their parents were actually really good friends. So Yaki Gaddafi and Pac were like lifelong friends. They grew up since childhood together. So they weren't actually any blood relation, but they were close homeboys, just like my brothers right here on the Dro Bro Show. Very close, people to each other. So I just wanted to clear that up real quick for those that may be trying to critique some of our facts here, because I know a lot of people in the comments like to say a lot of shit on a lot of different videos. So just wanted to put that out there right away. But today, with no further ado, we have an excellent topic today, an excellent artist that we're covering, and I can't wait to get into it. But Skins, or Grim, I'm sorry, you wanted to let them know who we're going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about Bob Marley, and I know with the recent One Love coming out and everything, it seems to be a hot topic today. He's an artist that has strongly influenced, I think, all three of us in our lives. There's a lot more to it than just what is on the surface, what people perceive him as. It's just like a party high artist, more to it than that. And that's what we're going to probably get into today.
I agree. I think Bob Marley, especially for our generation, and maybe in fact the generations that came after us, they've all kind of glorified Bob Marley as this pothead, and they just kind of leave it at that. They see the weed smoke and the Rastafarianism, and they just relate everything to weed and weed culture, which is just a small fragment of the whole message that Bob was trying to convey. So I know we're going to get into more of that here as Doja gets his shit together. We're going to get more involved here. But let's go ahead and get into some of the facts here. Bob was, like I said, a Rastafarian, and he became Rastafarian in his later teens, 17, 18, around that time. And Rastafarianism is very much a form of like Christianity. They see their Lord as Jah. That's who they call God. And the cannabis that we speak of, the weed culture that's involved in it, is like a sacramental gift that they believe gives them beneficial properties. It helps them get more in tune with themselves and with the higher power, Jah, and all of those type of things. unfortunately, like I said earlier, our particular culture and our generation has kind of glorified the weed smoke of it all and kind of lost some of the message. And like I'm sure we'll get into here, when we watched, all three of us have seen the One Love movie about Bob Marley's life. Um, and I think that the main takeaway for me in the movie that we saw was about the message and how the message was intertwined with the music and how beautiful that was all together, because Bob wasn't trying to glorify anything but God. And I think that was a huge message that I particularly needed to see for myself. And I needed to understand a little bit better because I was kind of unaware of it. And I learned a lot of stuff from that movie. You guys want to get into some of your reactions from that?
So I'd like to get into a little bit more of the Yah thing. So that's a Yah. It's what, like Rich Remo was saying, is that it's more of a Western Christian thing. Psalm 68:4, I believe it is, it says that we are to sing great praises to him and extol him by his name, Yah. Um, because his name is different from the Hebrew to the English translations, God and Lord, or titles. They're just referencing in the music him by his name that had been said in the verses. So with that, what a lot of people don't realize about reggae music is that it is more of a gospel music. All of it is to give glorification back to God. If you really listen to it, the true reggae music, it's more like gospel.
Yeah, and I was actually checking on this documentary earlier, the Marley documentary. I don't know if anybody has seen that one, but they were talking about how reggae actually started off as more like a ska type of music, and that's where it kind of came from. And then as Bob started getting more into his religious beliefs, his music started to reflect that a lot more, and it kind of changed the music for a lot of people, not just him and his group. I think for a lot of the people in the area around him, um, also started making very similar type of stuff. Doja, what was your reaction initially to the movie?
To tell you the truth, I really didn't know much about Bob Marley at all. So it was very interesting. The and then the way they talked and stuff, like, it was like the way he would like word stuff was like really interesting. Like, and I was like, I was having to explain it to my daughter a lot. I was like, do you understand what he was saying right there? And stuff. And like, there was like one song he was just saying that, we're not really skin color when we're all human, and then like, it's like, yeah, that's true. But I got like the whole like his thing, like the whole we're all humans. Like we should all learn to love, and not be so how we are violent. And I liked how he grew up like poor. I'm always for the poor people because I'm poor.
Yeah, I
So it was
think.
like it was like
Go
cool.
ahead.
He was like an underdog,
Mhm.
like yeah,
Yeah, I think we can all relate to the poverty aspect of it all because we all come from very humble beginnings and very humble presence as well. So I can
right.
understand completely. One of my takeaways that, like you were saying that you didn't really know much about him. I wasn't as informed about him as I thought I was. I didn't know he had a white man for a father, and that was very interesting to me.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then I was listening to a documentary, and they said that he used to make him sleep under the porch because he didn't want nothing to do with Bob. I said, "Jeez."
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate situation there, to have this son or have any kind of offspring and not want to be involved in their lives or even claim them is very tough. And I think that took its toll on a young Bob. And from what I've read and from what I've seen in documentaries and in the movie, he was kind of outcast because of that, because he wasn't a full black person or a full Jamaican
Right.
person. He was a half white person, and I think that it definitely came with its challenges, as anybody would have to deal with in the 50s and 60s. So it was very eye-opening for me as well, just to know some of those facts there. Grim, how did you feel about some of that stuff?
Well, that's a harder thing to deal with for any culture, I feel like, is to be a mixed breed of anything because
Yeah.
you're not this or you're not that, you're half and you're half. So it neither culture accepts you. But as far as the movie goes, I do feel that it gave more the message than the man, which I really appreciated about the movie. I like that that they did with a lot of the music, that it wasn't just about his more popular ones. It was about the more influential ones in his career and in his life, I feel like. So that told the story of the message, you know.
I
That's what I
agree.
movie did. Really like Bob Marley. I like all of his kids' music. I like that the message was always put in a loving, peaceful way, and that's what made Bob Marley a threat. As I think I said in an episode before, but his music was more peaceful, and because of the message being love, it was able to be more widespread. There's a lot of artists who try to copy spreading a political message, but haven't had the type of success because of their type of genre of music isn't as widespread as the type of music that Bob did at the time he did it.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. You touched on his children a second ago. Bob had 12 children, um, three with his wife, two that it says were from his wife's previous marriages that he adopted. And then there was seven illegitimate children. And that's where we know Damian Marley, some of the other ones. Lauren Hill actually married, I got it written down here, Rohan Marley. And she has a grandbaby of Bob Marley. For those hip hop heads that know Lauren Hill, or even the pop music heads that know Lauren Hill, she's an awesome artist in her own right. But Damien, for one, is just a huge, huge influence on me now today. And I think a lot of us hip hop heads these days have heard at least one song that he did with Nas, you know, The Road to Zion, but he actually did an entire album with Nas called Distant Relatives. And that album was incredible. It really changed a lot of things for me in my perspective. And this came out easily 10 to 12 years ago. My kids were very young when I first came across that. So that album, if you guys haven't heard it, check it out because it definitely picks up. I feel like Damien definitely picks up where Bob left off, and I'm sure a lot of the other brothers did too. Ziggy and Stephen Marley have also been musicians. I think a lot of them have actually been musicians, but those are the ones that seem to be most prominent. And Damien, for me, is just head and shoulders above all of them. I feel like his message is the exact same as what Bob was trying to do, but with the more modern touch to it. And it definitely hits me in all the right places. You know what I'm saying? So
The way you touched on it, I'm glad. I do feel Damien's more the modern touch of Bob Marley style. I feel that Ziggy is actually more like original Bob Marley, though, as far as the goes and the type of music. Steven is next to that. Kaimani is more of a dance type artist, musician, I guess I would say. You know, he's more upbeat. It's a different type of music than what his father was doing, but still with that Jamaican vibe to it. Damien is more on the hip hop genre of the side of reggae.
absolutely. Are you familiar with Damien at all, Doja?
The only song I know is the one that him and B Real did, called Fire, Fire, Fire. And and the funny thing is I jacked the beat and then I made a mixtape to it, and then years down the road, I ran across the song on accident. But it's a
Oh,
pretty badass song.
I
But
actually remember this song that you did because I have it. It was part of one of the drunken tapes, I believe. So I think I have
yeah,
that song. I remember the beat.
yeah,
But I'll
yeah.
definitely have to send you some links afterwards because Damien is out of control. He's very good, and you will love his music. I could guarantee it. Um,
You,
Before we get any further into later, Bob, I want to talk for a second about this album Exodus that he did. There was a main one of the main focal points in the movie. One Love. They were talking about this album that he was trying to cross over with to appeal to a wider range of audience and also get that message out to a wider range of an audience. And in the movie, they talk about how even in the cover of the album Exodus, they didn't want it to be this crazy thing with his face all over it and be like self-promotion, all that kind of stuff. It was very basic. It was very I think it was just the word. It was just the word Exodus with some it was like drawn up, somebody's
They
artwork.
uh Hebrew script, didn't they, to base the lettering off of
You're
some
right.
Hebrew script or something, so that it's more all about like biblical.
Exactly.
That part was pretty funny in the movie where like the guy kept drawing up different ones. He's drawing these big, nice, elaborate album covers, and they're like, no. He's like, no. And then he draws the simple one. He's like, yeah, yeah, man, that's the one.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And a little side note for those of you, I don't know if you guys are big Sopranos heads, but I'm a huge Sopranos guy. The guy that played the record producer or whatever he was that didn't like the cover, the one that was against it with the glasses, that was actually James Gandolfini's son, Michael Gandolfini, and he played a young Tony Soprano in The Many Saints of Newark, the Sopranos movie, the prequel. Just a little random trivia for you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
you are.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
let's get on to a little bit of to touch a little bit further on the Rastafarianism. Um, I think one of the most identifying physical attributes that you will see a Rasta have is the dreadlocks. Now, clearly, I don't have anything close to that, but in real, actual Rastafarianism, they like to see things and live in a way of a more natural type of state and appearance. And that's where the dreadlocks come from. And they're actually a very prominent attribute that they hold on to and that they keep as a part of their identity. In fact, I've seen interviews with Bob talking about how his dreadlocks were his identity. So that's something that's also very important, I think, to understand and to know, because again, in today's culture and in our generation, we don't necessarily know those things. So I think it's important to understand where that comes from and why it is the way it is.
Oh, I know. And then you see all kinds of people with dreadlocks nowadays, like not even like black people. You see every race, with dreadlocks and stuff. And then
Which
and they're usually people that just relate to the weed. It's like, no, there's some deeper meaning
exactly.
behind all that.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought it there because I was going to say a lot of people don't really understand why, and they see it as more of like a fashion sense or a fashion statement or something like that. So
Right.
to understand that there's deeper meaning behind it is a very important thing to know. You guys, did you guys know what ultimately killed him? Did you guys know any of that stuff, or was it all new to you when watching the movie?
So I heard the rumor about it. I mean, let's just say allegations, okay, because there's still a lot of mystery around what happened to really Bob Marley's death, uh, surrounding what happened to him. A lot of people, think that that's just one way of putting there. There's a conspiracy about the way that he passed away, like that maybe they intentionally had him poisoned or gave him the cancer, you know,
Mm-hmm.
for
I wasn't
spreading.
aware of any controversies with it. I didn't know that there was different stories.
What?
I
So,
always knew of like cancer, but I didn't know what kind of cancer or how it was or any of that kind of stuff. And I also didn't know that there were assassination attempts before that. I didn't know any of that either.
See,
they he even has a song where he's like, "Don't listen to the CIA," and that's supposedly who uh was involved taking him out. There was a guy that was like confessed it on his deathbed.
I did not know that. When I looked up to get some information for this episode, I saw that his death was actually from acrolentigenous melanoma, which is a skin cancer that's not directly involved with the sun. It's actually more common in darker skinned people, and it actually manifests itself or it grows in places that aren't something that you would normally look at, like under the feet, under the toenails, stuff like that. And that's where his had originally come from, was under a toenail. And they were trying to do an amputation, but he didn't want to get the amputation because it was against his religious beliefs. Instead, he had the nail and the nail bed removed and actually had a skin graft from his thigh to put over the area. And also, when I was reading in my notes here, in 1980, I believe, he did a couple shows in Madison Square Garden, and he was running or jogging in Central Park and collapsed in Central Park. And that's when they took him to the hospital and saw that this particular melanoma had spread. It spread to his brain, his lungs, and his liver. And that's ultimately what had gotten him a year later in 1981. It had spread so much to his lungs and liver that it ultimately took him out. And I just thought the craziest part to me, I was very emotional at the end of that movie. And I walked out of that theater feeling all kinds of different things. I was in a very strange place in my life that day, every day, really. But I found out that he was only 36. And for those of you that know, and for those of you that are going to find out, that's how old I am. So he was my age when he passed. And that was very, very impactful for me to know that somebody that was my age and younger made this much of a global impact because of his beliefs, because of what he wanted to teach people, because he wanted to love people and have people love each other, like how he was trying to unify Jamaica, because they had two political parties that were feuding for a very long time, which resulted in his first assassination attempt, which is why he had to flee Jamaica, because he had more of a ministry to take care of. So when he came back to Jamaica, you see at the end of the movie, is when he was able to help unify the whole country there, and was able to bring the leaders of both political parties together and have them shake hands and have them accept each other at the end of the movie. That was a pretty cool thing to see. Were you guys aware of any of those facts?
Yeah.
No. Well, I knew about the peace thing at the end, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the assassination attempts. That's what I was kind of leading to earlier. Is that's what led to a lot of the conspiracy theories that it was more than just the cancer that had killed him. You know, it had been spread so far. Like I had said before, he was a greater threat than many other artists of his kind, or any kind, that tried to spread any type of political message through any type of. It was more widespread in a worldwide sense.
I agree. I wasn't aware, again, like I said earlier, that the assassination attempts or any of that led to controversies over his death. I wasn't aware of that. So that's something that is all new to my ears here.
Well, it's just wild to me, like all the people that like spread peace, unity, all that, they get assassinated. Like, we talked about Tupac last week. There's SPM that was promoting unity with the Mexican people and getting them in line. They got him on some bogus charges. And then there's Bob Marley. All his whole message was about peace. Like when I came out of the movie theater, I was like, damn, I kind of feel like at ease, at peace. Like I was like, I kind of like how he thinks. And then Trinity said, hey, can we be Rastafarian? I go, man, I've been, because she was making a joke about the weed smoking. I go, I've been Rastafarian my whole life. And I was like, but it's more to it than that, Trinity. It's not about just smoking.
There's definitely a lot more to the message. Grim, how did you feel when you walked out of that theater?
I felt inspired, to say it in a word. There's a lot about the movie that they did really well, and I really like how they told the message, that they didn't concentrate so much on his infidelities with his wife or all the drama part of the story. They concentrated on the message of peace, the whole uniting the two ways of thinking in Jamaica, something that, you know, there was a lot of riots, there was a lot of shootings, things going on of that nature. He fled because he wanted to protect his wife and kids, you know, and by staying there, he already put them in danger by his wife getting shot in the same incident of his first assassination attempt, and his manager as well. Uh, I'd say when I left, I was really appreciative of the way that they did the movie, the soundtrack goes, and it was great. His,
Hold on a second,
his
Grim. That
song,
was just your grinder or whatever keeps picking up, and you can't really hear Grim. All right, go ahead one more time, my brother.
I was just saying that I really felt that the way that it came together with the soundtrack and his whole life, the saga of his life, that his whole career and everything, that they really told it well.
I agree. And also, I don't know how you guys felt about it, but you just brought up his wife a second ago. I honestly felt like she kind of stole the show. I think that she was a very important figure that I'm glad that they emphasized a fair amount with, because she just seemed to be like the personification of a rock for him. You know what I mean? She was absolutely that person. And even in the documentary, that Marley documentary, I was actually checking it out earlier today before we did our show here. Even in the documentary, you could just tell she was just somebody that was very, very important to the story. And I don't think that anybody really knew that. Anybody that I'm aware of that knows of Bob Marley knew how important his wife was to the whole story. And I just thought that was awesome. She really stole the show for me in the movie.
Right.
To be honest,
I was kind of like, man, I wonder what that's like to have like a wife like that. Mine all been backstabbers.
That's another show for another time, my brother.
now, I was really shocked that he was married that whole time. You know, I knew that he had been infamous before. I didn't honestly think that he was still married with the same woman throughout his entire life. The story of them meeting when they're children and things, that was unique. I didn't think that how important that was to the story until you see it, you know. Like Remo was saying, is that she was a rock for him, and throughout his career, throughout his message, the redemption song, okay, when he, spoiler alert, when he's singing it at the end with his kids. When did you write that song? And because I've been writing it my whole life. And she tells him, then you're ready. You know, it's like his message at the end of his life, that he knew that his time is up. So he wanted to leave that one message with the world before he was gone. I
like.
just think
Oh,
beautiful.
go ahead.
She was the one who brought it up. My bad, Soul Doja.
Oh no, go ahead. No, I was just saying. When you're talking about the message, when I like that part too, when he was talking about the message, and then she said, well, sometimes you become the messenger, or I might be wording it a little wrong, but basically, or no, I forgot how she worded it, but I was like, man, that's some, that's real stuff, and then, kind of like preparing him for, he could go away, he's kind of done with everything, like he kind of pass on now.
He definitely became the messenger, and I was very happy to know that she had encouraged him and helped develop that character for him. Because I think she, being his rock, helped give him a big stable foundation, in his life, because there was a lot of people pulling him in many directions, and I think she kept him centralized, and I think that was a very important thing to know, that he had that stability at home, even with such an unstable environment that Jamaica was in, or that the world was in at that time. It's very important to know that she, in her heart at least, kept him in a very stable foundation.
And I think it was a strong foundation for the kids too, because the kids mostly stayed with her. They touch on that
Absolutely.
and how she's raising kids that aren't even her own.
Did
And that's a testament to her.
Absolutely. I mean, she would even raise children that weren't even hers, necessarily biologically hers at least. And I thought that just speaks so highly of her character as a human being. Um, did you guys in your theater experiences, did you have Ziggy at the beginning of it doing a little disclaimer?
I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you guys that too. Yeah, I did.
Did you see that, Grim?
Yeah.
I thought
It
that
was
was,
on A to make sure that they brought about the best telling of his father's story that they could, the truest.
yeah, the stayed true to the story and was accurate as possible. I thought that was pretty cool, and I think just from that alone set the tone for the movie for me because I knew
Yeah.
that the family was that involved to know that it was going to be told the right way. It really made all the difference for me because in a lot of biopics you see based on a true story, and based on a true story doesn't necessarily mean it stays true to form. It means they sensationalize things, they Hollywood up it, you know what I mean, stuff like that. So I thought that it was very important to know that the family was as involved as they were. Now, I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but while I was doing some more of my notes, I also saw that when he died and when he was buried in his casket, they placed his red Gibson Les Paul guitar in there with him. He had
Yeah.
a Bible in his casket with him that was opened up to Psalm 23. And he also had a stock of ganja that his wife had placed in there with him. And I just thought all of that was pretty awesome. I thought all three of those items that were placed in his casket were very significant in their own right. And I just thought that that was pretty amazing. And just as another little side note, we spoke last week about the funeral of my aunt that Doja had referred to last week. She is the only other person that I'm aware of that I know personally, at least, that had also had something similar in her casket when she passed. And what I mean is the ganja, because she was also a very strong practitioner and believer in its beneficial properties, and she also had some on her way out with her. So big ups to you, Auntie.
Hey, hey, Remo. Remember, we
I
they had
remember.
where they threw the joint and it went right through that
It
little
was
crack.
almost as if she grabbed it, right?
Yeah, we all looked at each other like, "What the heck?"
That was incredible. That was amazing. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm referring to with this is like it's as if it was as significant to her almost as it was to Bob. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was a cool little side note to add to that. You guys want to add a little bit more to your movie experiences before we get into our songs here?
Um, trying to think.
I want to say that all the actors, did a phenomenal job in the storytelling and the way that they were, how they really carried the characters. The guy who even played Bob, I mean, honestly, when I first seen the previews, I thought, that's really Bob. But after watching the movie, I could only see Bob Marley.
Yep.
Yeah, I like how they talked, like and like for me too, I had to kind of like focus in and kind of like, oh, what, like and how they would word things, like some stuff was like backwards, like when his homeboy was like taking money from him and he beat him up, and then he went to apologize to Bob, and then like he said this. He said it weird, but he said like you got to forgive yourself in your own heart. It's not up to me to forgive you. And cause that was like one of the things too. I was like, Trini, do you understand what you just said? And I thought the way the language was like so on point. It was cool. Like I really like the actors too. Yeah, I think they did an excellent job, especially like his wife too. Like that was good. She did good. They did a good job with that movie. And then I liked at the beginning when he came out and he was like, "Yeah, I was on set to make sure it was, basically to the real story." So then when I'm going into it, I was like, "Oh, right on! I'm gonna actually learn, about what
Yep,
really happened."
I agree. I know we just had the Oscars earlier this week or last week. I don't really remember because I don't really watch that kind of stuff anymore.
Did you
But if you
did you watch
might,
it?
no, I haven't really been into the Oscars for a while. So, the Oscars, the Grammys, all those award shows they all seem like they're more fixed than boxing matches to me. So I don't really pay much attention to it. But my point was, if she wasn't nominated for Best Actress in a motion picture, then I'm gonna be very disappointed. If she wasn't at least nominated, then that's whack because she did an awesome job. And the guy that played Bob was amazing as well. But you were referencing a second ago about when he beat up the guy and what he told him then about forgiveness. There
Yeah.
was also a scene when the guy that did the assassination attempt that shot him, when he came back to apologize and ask for forgiveness. I thought that was one of the most powerful moments in the whole movie, was how graceful Bob
Yeah.
was in his forgiveness of him, and that whole scene was just very powerful and impactful for me. Did you guys remember that part?
Yeah, so remember, I think you and I had a phone conversation about that scene, and I was telling you that for me, it really resonated with me when he tells the guy, "I know it's in my heart, and what has been in his heart cannot promote the message." And I remember telling you how that really resonated with me because that's really what it's about, and his music, the movie, that was a whole culmination of everything coming together, I feel like, at that very moment in the movie.
Very well said.
I know, and I was like, geez, they get shot up and assassinated, and then he still did the concert, and I was like, man. And then I thought it was so funny when like his wife was there. It was like, oh, what? Like, I was like, but yeah, there was so many good parts in that movie that it was just. I went and I recommended it to everybody. I said, man,
Same.
that was.
That's something I think we all agree with also. And I shared it with everybody I knew at work. Every person the very next day I talked to at work, and I told them all about it. And I encouraged a few people to go see it, and they did go see it. And when they came back to work the next day or whenever they saw it, they had a big conversation with me about how impactful it was for them also. So
Oh,
I
that's
think
awesome.
that's important to also give a little bit of time to here.
Yeah, I give it 5
Yeah,
stars.
I said
I
I want to
agree.
buy that one.
2 thumbs up, 5 stars, recommended to everybody. For those of you that already follow the channel here on the Vicious Network, you've probably seen my short little review on the movie, and I'll probably post another one because my kids. I don't know how you talked about your daughter earlier, Doja, but even
Yeah.
my kids, my son in particularly, is a huge Bob Marley fan, and he wanted to be on this episode so bad. So I might get him on a little short or something talking about his fandom of Bob Marley, because he's also somebody that seems to be impacted by such a great man, So it's cool to know that even kids still today are being impacted by this person, So I thought that would be a good thing to make sure we end on. Unless you guys have anything else you want to add on to it before we get into the music here.
Oh, about the Oscars, you should look up what John Cena wore when he went to present his award.
I saw on Instagram. I saw a clip of it, so I didn't get to watch the Oscars, but I saw that part, and that was a little funny. John Cena has never been one to shy away from any controversy, is he?
That Ricky,
Right.
if anyone hasn't
Oh,
seen it, recommend it.
the I I literally just finished that last night. Man, that movie was funny. I was laughing so hard. Oh man.
Oh, that's great. That is so great that we're talking about this, because I just saw that movie today. I saw it
Oh.
earlier this morning, and damn, what a funny ass movie. But I think John Cena, he just keeps growing and growing as an actor, and just really shows his range and his vibrance as a comedic actor, because he's so damn funny. In that
Even
movie, it's ridiculous.
We have to
I
do a
like him.
review on that one.
I'm down. We'll do a review on that next time for sure. Um, but let's go ahead and get into the music here. So as you've kind of already seen, we picked two songs for every artist that we try to do a little profile on. So that's six, that's six songs altogether that we're trying to show and share with y'all. So let's go ahead and get into it. Grim, you want to start with the first one that you picked?
Let's go with the Three Little Birds. I really like that song. I always have. I mean, Rich Remo picked a couple of my favorite songs. So did Soul Doja. So it's really hard to pick songs with this and be fair about it. Representing, I feel, what the artist was. Okay, so in this song, I picked this song because I feel like it really represents that easygoing, loving aspect of Bob. You know, you have the three little birds at your doorstep singing, "Don't worry about a thing." So it's very feel good. That's what I liked about it so much. And I feel like that represents the aura that most people get of Bob, even if they don't know very much about him, even if they don't know that his music is more political than it is just about love. It's about faith. It's about fighting for what's right. It's about standing up. That's what his music truly is about. But in this song, I do feel it represents what people see in Bob Marley.
I agree, and that's a great little review on the song in itself. I think that is one of the ones that, for me, sounds like one of the more peaceful songs. Like, and when I say peaceful, I mean like global, worldwide peaceful songs. Like he's really trying to bring people together with that, and to give a lot of reassurance. Because when he says every little thing's gonna be all right, I mean, how many times do we go through things in life where we don't know what's going to happen? We don't know if it's going to be all right. So to get that reassurance, even just from a song, and just to hear that, is a good feeling. And I think it does wonders on your soul when you need that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Doja, what do you think about that song?
Um, First off, was I didn't even know like in the movie, I didn't know like he sang half the songs. Like I've heard them for years of my whole life, and I was like, oh man, I didn't even know he sang that song, and that was one of them. I was like, what? I didn't even know he sang that song, and I was just like, I just tripped out that, I remember that song forever, and I just, I was shocked that it was him that sang the song.
That's so awesome that you say that right now, because none of us picked this song, but the song that he does, "I Shot the Sheriff," I didn't know that was a Bob Marley song. I had no
I
idea
know.
about
Oh yeah.
I thought it was Eric Clapton's because he remade it, you know, so I
it.
always associated it to him. Now, I knew it was Bob Marley's in high school, but as a kid, I always associated that song to, and you know Michael Lee Remo, so you'll know. Uh, One time he was showing me Bob Marley's, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Eric Clapton's song. He was like, no, Bob Marley did it first.
Yep, that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's funny.
Doja, what was the first song that you chose?
It was the Natural Mystic, and that's like the first song on the Exodus album. Um, that song's I'm not for sure what he was wrote it, like what it was about to him, but to me it was like the energy and everything, like um the mystic part, the spiritual part, the energy part to life, everything, the trees, the bird, the animals, us, it's like, we don't know how to explain it, but we know that there is some type of energy or something like that. But that's kind of what I got from that song.
Grim, you want to add to that?
No, I love that. I love exactly the way that you explained it.
Like, like Star Wars, they say the life force, that's kind of like what I feel. Like, something like
That's
that.
great. That's great, and that's one that I wasn't as familiar with. I actually had to check it out. I had to listen to that whole album. And there's this concert that I found on YouTube that he did in England, I think. Royal Albert Hall, maybe, or something like that. I can't remember exactly where now, but I think that's the first song that they perform in the concert also, and it
Oh,
grabbed me right away too. Just the sound of the music, the message that he also brought along with it. It was very good stuff, and I think that was a great choice that you picked there. Um, the first one that I chose was "Could You Be Loved." Um, I felt like that song in particular for me uh, is just like a very well written love song. Like anybody that knows me, they know I'm all about love songs, doo wop kind of stuff, all of that kind of a flavor right there. And I felt like that song in particular had that oldies love song feel to it, and just the chorus of it is just infectious for me. You know that "Could you be loved and be loved." That's just a beautiful little melody right there, and I could bump that one song over and over for forever. It seems. How you
So,
guys like that one?
so when Remo picked that song, I was like, oh, that was one of my top favorite songs to pick. I love the guitar riff at the beginning of the song, right? And just throughout the song, that do 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 do. It's so sick, just a funky vibe to it. I love it.
Absolutely.
yeah, and like again, I didn't even know he sang that song. I thought it was some jazz player that sang that song, So, but I mean,
Oh,
I like it's smooth.
very smooth. Very smooth. My first exposure to that song was actually through the Eddie Murphy. I can't remember if it was Raw or Delirious, but one of his stand-ups, he's talking about his dad being drunk or something like that and trying to hit on his mom or talking to his mom or something. And he's singing that song to the mom. And that was my first exposure to that song. And I was like, I know I've heard this song somewhere. I just didn't know where. And it wasn't until I got older that I actually got to hear it and know that it was Bob. So yeah, I agree with not knowing all the songs. Again, there's another example of that.
And to touch on the movie, I do love too that they got into the guitar player's story too, as well.
I'm glad you brought that up because when I was watching the YouTube video of the concert in England, like I was talking about, it just shows Bob in the middle, the guitarist on the left side, and then the three girls on the right side doing his backups. And when Bob wasn't singing, and when wasn't the girls' turn part to sing, the guitarist was just out there shredding, bro. Like that dude was killing it the whole time. And I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? Like I never even knew he had such a badass guitarist in the band like that. It didn't even occur to me. So when I saw that, in the concert footage, I was highly impressed with him, and I was hoping, and I even told my girl on the way to the movie, I hope they talk about this guy, man. I hope I find out who he was because he was badass. And sure enough, like you said, Grim, they focused a little bit on him and his story, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
He played with Stevie Ray Vaughan, and
He
that's what
played
it was.
with a lot of people. I think they talk about him playing for Stevie Wonder in the movie, and that was pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. That part was so funny. Like where he's like kind of like trying out, and he's just like wailing away, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, you're hired."
Well, and then they asked him. They said, could you get down with the message? And like he looked around and saw how everybody was living and saw the vibe that was coming off of him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm down with that." And then I don't know if he joined Rastafarianism or not, but he seemed to adopt the lifestyle pretty well. And as far as I know, he stuck with them until Bob passed. So he was a pretty significant part of the band there also. What was your second one that you chose there, Doja?
Uh,
Oh,
Oh,
me?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Graham. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I thought we
well,
were going in an order here.
I know we're going in order. I jacked it all up. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Graham.
I was just gonna say because you touched on it with your last song. This is why I picked "Waiting in Vain" because I feel that part of Bob was also his love songs, and the songs "I Don't Want to Wait in Vain for Your Love," and I like in the movie that how his wife said, "I love your love songs." When he was his songs, I think he's laying in bed and he's writing a song, singing it, and she says, "I love you." And again, that's the message that I feel that he mostly promoted throughout the world, which was received mostly from most audiences. Again, like I say, when I feel that what a person resonates with when they see or hear of Bob Marley, it's mostly the whole message of love.
Again, very well said, and that's a perfect way to talk about it, because his love songs to me were just very different from most love songs that you would hear. And they were funky. They had great melody, just so many things to them that just make them incredible songs. So I'm glad you chose that one, because like you said, how we chose some of your favorites, that was also one of my favorites. And it's been so hard to choose just two songs in all of these things here. But I like it. I like to have to narrow it down to two. You know what I mean? Because then you're forced to leave out some that you like and hope that somebody else picks it up, you know? So I was glad that you picked that one up for sure. Doja, how do you feel about that one?
It's like they're like, so there's like how do you say, like a soul smoothing song, like that feeling, the love feeling and stuff with it when you have that, your girlfriend or your wife or whatever, it's like I like it was, it was a real smooth song to me.
Very smooth. You want to talk about your second song?
It was the Buffalo Soldier, and I just liked the song, the chorus and everything. I didn't really know what it was about until, I did a little bit of research, and then it made it even more interesting. It was about the people fighting in the Civil War and stuff, and they were saying that I was just listening to this thing just a second ago, and she was saying that, they had hair like the buffaloes because, it was the African people, the black people, and they were going out there and fighting, front line, and they were, against the natives and stuff, and they would call them the Buffalo Soldiers because they would say that their hair was similar. But yeah, I mean, that's a cool ass song. That one and I Shot the Sheriff, I was like really debating on the two. So I was like watching to see what you guys were saying would pick, and then I was like, oh, no, I better just pick it real quick. I wasn't for sure.
I'm
Thank you.
glad you picked.
Thank you. Go ahead, Grim.
That's one of the ones that also I was like, I really like. Very important to me growing up throughout high school. I feel like because at the time I was more into political aspects of life, I guess, and the way that it influenced governments and cultural societies. Anyways, going back to Bob, though, I always liked the message, what Soul Doja was talking about, that what the song is actually based off of. And I love that it's about standing up and fighting for what's right.
And I was completely unaware of the background behind that one. So thank you for sharing that with us, Doja. Little known fact here, if I could just get into it for a second. Soul Doja, the first part of his name, Soul, comes from Joe the Soul. And that's something that I gave him as a moniker a long time ago, because this guy has the soul to him where he's a very inviting figure, especially in my life. He's been a very, very prominent and inviting figure for me, and has been very prolific for me in my life. So I think when you said that was soul soothing, I just thought that was the best thing that you could have said right there, because for somebody that's moniker is the soul, for it to be soothed such a way, I just thought was pretty awesome. So I just wanted to share that for a second.
I, I, I was like trying to think of like, I'm like, it don't just like touch like like your heart and stuff, but it like touches your whole like soul, like, yeah, it's just like when I listen to it at work too, I'll be in a bad mood and I'll put that on, and I'm just like in my own freaking zone and world, and I'm happy. Like it's
I
like
love it.
high vibrational music,
I love it.
it's not.
That's great stuff. Before we get into my last song, we're about coming up on an hour into Bob here, and we still haven't given any of our Dro choices for ourselves here. Do you guys want to get into that a little bit? What are you guys blowing on today?
Oh, what am I blowing on? Some Winter Sunset.
Winter
I'm
Sunset. I haven't heard that
hey
strain yet.
Hey, check this. Oh, oops. Check this out. They built a Rocky Mountain cannabis dispensary here, which was first. I first went to Rocky Mountain in Denver, up in Lakewood. It was a West Side dispensary by where my Aunt Joanne used to live with my grandma, off of Sheridan and Morrison, over there
Mm.
by the original tamale kitchen and stuff. So they built one of those here. So I still just blow only Colorado weed. But that's my spot, Rocky Mountain cannabis.
Nice, nice. Good to know. Grim, what you puffing on over there, my brother?
The cart, I got I think it's lemonade haze, and then I got hazeberry dream for flower.
Ah, I can't wait, my brothers. I can't wait. I'll be there soon enough. I'll be able to partake, and we'll be the real Dro Bro show at that point.
But we'll have a podcast for when you smoke, when you come
Right,
back to it.
right. I might just have to save it for that episode or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. I don't know. I don't know if I could hold that much longer. No, I'm just kidding. But my last
Well,
song that I chose wasn't one that was necessarily one he did, or that came out at least, or even finished. I don't think at the time he died. Actually, I'm lying. I did look back and I saw that there was a version of it that was completed that was on one of the albums. But I chose "Turn Your Lights Down Low," and that's one that he starts to sing in the movie.
yeah.
He sings a little bit about it. And that's the one I think where she talks about she loves his love songs. I think that's the scene. Um, but the version I'm talking about is the one that came out not that long ago with Lauryn Hill in it. And I don't know if you guys have heard that version or not, but it's amazing. I love that song. It's one of our favorite ones in this household here. The whole song as a whole is just funky as hell. And Lauryn Hill throws this rap verse in it that's just out of this world also. And I've shared it multiple times on my stories on social media. Um, I love that song. I don't know if you guys have heard it yet, so I don't know how much you can add to it. But if you haven't, I highly recommend it, and I can send you guys some links to it also because that version with Lauryn Hill is awesome. And to have Bob and one of his daughter-in-laws on a song just seems pretty awesome to me. The only ones that I could think of that have done anything like that previously was like Nat King Cole and his daughter Natalie Cole when they did that Unforgettable song back in the day, because it was obviously recorded after he had passed, and that's the same with this one also. So I'm not sure how many more songs there are like that, with actual family members being added to songs, after people had passed. But I thought it was pretty awesome. And have you guys heard that one at all yet?
Yeah, not the Lauren one, only the original one, which is why I didn't bring it up when I brought up the scene earlier, because I wanted to let you talk about the song for when you brought it up at this point. But I do want to touch on something we haven't touched on in the whole podcast so far, is that Exodus, right? We kind of mentioned it, but what it's about is it's about Moses in the desert with the people, with Yah's people, right? And they're fleeing the and they're trying to find their way. And it's even in the scene in the movie that this is why he chooses to name the album Exodus, is it's about them wandering through the desert trying to find their way. Basically how they did in the music and the message.
Love that. Love that. Thank you for adding that to it, Graham. I appreciate that. I think we're all people that have been on our own spiritual journeys. I think we all are, not just the three of us, but all of our audience that may be potentially listening to this also. I'm pretty sure you can agree that we have all been on our own spiritual journeys. And I'm very grateful to have both of you guys help be a part of my journeys in your own ways. Doja and I have a lot of things that we share. Grim and I have a lot of things that we also share. So I think the combination of the three of us and our spirituality has only given me more growth in mine. So I just want to thank the two of you in particular for that.
Yep, it's a pleasure and an honor for both of you. Oh,
Thank you, my brother.
Right.
Well, that's all 6 of our songs for Bob today. You guys want to get into anything else before we get into anything different?
Also, that I never knew too. He sang that One Love song, and I've heard that since my childhood. And then when I heard that in the song, I go, oh heck, oh my god! I said all these songs I've heard, and I never even knew it was him. I thought he was just singing about weed all the time.
See, and that's my point. Our culture has just glorified him as a pothead and completely missed the message. So I think it was
Mhm.
very important for us to watch the movie so we could understand that a little bit better. And how perfect for it to be called One Love, huh?
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Out on Valentine's Day.
Out on Valentine's Day.
Now that makes sense to me. Because I was thinking, like, why Valentine's Day?
What a great way to promote it too. I mean, without a lot of advertising, it seemed like it came out in a lot of smaller theaters. It wasn't like a big budget promotion or anything like that. So really glad to see the way that they decided to promote that in a way that was unique.
Absolutely. Um, I love the movie. I think we all love the movie, and we all recommend it to everybody out there. Watch it as many times as you can, because I'm sure that's going to be one of those movies where every time you watch it, you see something different, and you learn something new every time. So I'm excited to get it when it comes out on DVD or whatever it may be, because I would love to see special features behind it. I'm a big special features guy, as I know you two are. And I think that there's just still so much more to learn about this guy who really left us quite a while ago. It's been almost 40 years or even more so at this point. So, you
Damn,
know,
really?
yeah, I think his impact for it to still be reaching all the way up until this day and being uh, so impactful for people is it just speaks for itself.
Right? Yeah. Like I said, that influenced me a lot more. And I was like, oh, I want to start checking all this stuff out. And I started checking out all the music. And I'm like, and then it's like, like me, I like, it's like I knew about them, but now it's like learning. It's like finding a new hidden gem, like it's pretty cool.
I think as artists and musicians ourselves, that's all we could hope for, is that even beyond our lifetimes or our children's lifetimes or whatever, if we could still be touching people beyond that or beyond our own, is just a huge, huge accomplishment in itself. And I can only hope for something like that as an artist, to touch as many people as I can in as many years as I can. I think that would be amazing. Um, and with that being said, I think we're wrapping up on Bob. What do you guys think?
I think so too. How about we touch on the weather out here right now, Remo, here in Colorado?
Ah,
I
it's
don't know.
snowing.
I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like down in the 505, 303. They've been shutting down stuff left and right, shutting down schools,
What?
shutting down jobs. It's been
Oh
a
my god.
couple days. So
I'm
I don't know. The
so
roads
sad.
aren't bad. The roads aren't bad at all around me. At least they weren't today. I don't know. We'll see what tonight and tomorrow has in store for us. So.
Well,
We
it's because
get no snow here. And that is the number one thing I loved about Colorado and Trinity too, which makes us so depressed when we see you guys getting bombed over there with snow.
Yep. What were
It
you
was
gonna say
like,
again?
it's
oh,
that way.
sorry.
No, yeah, they shut down my work today too, and the kids' school.
Yeah.
They didn't shut down my work, those assholes. But I wasn't going anyway because I just got a new vehicle, at least new to me yesterday, and it's not in tip-top shape yet. And I didn't feel very comfortable driving that bad boy in there today. So I said, you know what? I don't have insurance on this yet, so I'm staying home.
Fuck. There was like 70 degrees over here.
Oh, you make me sick.
Oh, man.
Hey, 70 degrees to them over here is like freezing ass. You see people with hoodies and jackets, and I'm like, dude, I'm like in short sleeve, and they're like, aren't you cold? And I'm like, no, man, this is not cold. I'm used to below zero.
You're like, I'm getting a suntan. What are you talking about?
I, I was telling Trinity, I said one of my favorite things to do was barbecue in the snow. I used to love that. Like, I'm like, I'm like, yeah, it
You're not
sucks.
wrong, my brother.
I know.
But
I might go visit.
for those of you that are affected by the inclement weather here, I hope you're being safe. I hope everything goes well, and stay home and listen to more episodes because you don't need to be out there right now.
Fun fact
So
for our listeners out there, Remo and I, since I'm noticing his sleeveless has been a staple of Remo since I've known him. We both got, since I mentioned him in the podcast earlier, and shout out Mike Lee, we both got drilled by him with some ink. Both of us still wear it to this day. I think you got yours covered up, but
Now, you can't see mine from Michael Lee anymore. Mine's a cover up. I don't think you can tell very well on the camera here, but yeah, he definitely tore into me for a little while.
I haven't let nobody touch me since Robert when he passed away. I ain't got no new ink since he was my ink man.
I also have something from our brother Bobby Lee. He gave me my 5280 on my neck, and I'll never forget that.
we'll have
I
to
mean,
share.
love you.
Yeah, rest in peace. But share a story with Robert one day.
Yeah, we
Bobby.
would to touch on that. I know his anniversary is always around the time of Halloween, so maybe when we do our Halloween episode or whatever, we could touch on some Bobby Lee stuff and share some stories. That would be nice.
Because
Oh
that was
yeah.
a time of one.
I'm sorry, say that again, Grim.
That would be that good time with that spiritual one.
Yeah, that'd be great. So for those of you that have been listening, we want to thank you guys for being a part of our Bob Marley episode. Any kind of comments or questions, please make sure to put them right there in the comments on our YouTube channel, and we'll check them periodically, and hopefully we could get in touch with some of you people. And also, if you have any suggestions for any other people you want us to cover in some of our artist profiles or movies that you'd like us to review, please put those in the comments also, because we're open to all suggestions. We may not take them, but we're open to all suggestions. We do have a lot of stuff coming up. We have more interviews in the works. Lots of inspirational people that I've come across, that Grimm's come across, and Doja also, and they will be put out on some of our respective channels and some of the channels that we share together. So be on the lookout, because there's lots more stuff to come from the Dro Bros. We're just getting started. This is just episode 3, and we have lots of stuff on the way. So if you're a fan so far, please stay tuned. And if this is all new to you guys, welcome, and I hope you enjoy it. And I can't wait to give you guys some more stuff.
Hey, is it true that today is Razor Ramon's anniversary for him passing away?
I don't think it's today. I think it was actually a couple days ago, to be honest with you. I'm not exactly sure on the date. I don't have something available for me to check it out right now. But I did see a post that Kevin Nash did, I want to say yesterday or day before, when he was talking about 2 years. So yeah, it's about 2 years that we're without Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, for all of our wrestling heads here. So
Yeah, I seen it
well,
on Facebook. I seen something on Facebook too. I was like, oh, I'll ask them. So I don't know, wasn't for sure.
yeah, I don't know the exact dates, but I do know it was sometime in this last week or so. So rest in peace, Razor. Scott Hall, you were a big influence to all of us wrestling fans, and we miss you. We miss having you here.
Right. That's kind of wild. I was thinking about, like, we the last 2 people, we covered are not with or passed away, but the wrestling world loses a lot of them too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, we didn't really touch on any wrestling news this week, and I don't really have any written in front of me that I could get into. I do know there's been a few more guys added to the Hall of Fame. I know Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham as the U.S. Express are going into the Hall of Fame, and something special about that you kind of alluded to about people passing away in the wrestling world is Mike Rotunda's son, who all of us know as Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, passed away last year. And I'm for one, pretty hopeful that he goes into the Hall of Fame this year. That'd be nice to have father and son go in together, even though it's posthumously. And that's kind of sad. I was a big fan of Bray Wyatt, as I know you guys probably were as well. So he's probably the latest wrestling tragedy that we've had. First one in a long time also. Very sad to lose him. So hopefully he does go in either this year or next year. That'd be nice.
I mean, only thing I got in the wrestling news I want to touch on is it's official now that WrestleMania Night 1, it's going to be Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus The Rock and Roman Reigns to see if it's bloodline rules on Night 2 or if Cody gets to fight Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Championship without the bloodline.
Which I think is going to be awesome. I honestly feel like The Rock might take the fall, and I think it might be Cody that goes over on him. And I think that would be awesome that he pins The Rock and Roman in the same weekend for WrestleMania. I think that would just put it over the edge for me, but that's just my hope. And it's still yet to be seen, obviously. But there is one more little speck of news that I did want to get into just real quickly, is that there's been a few more additions to the AEW roster that I'm not exactly thrilled about, because I was hoping they'd come to WWE or come back to WWE. And for one, we talked about Will Ospreay already, but they also got Okada, who I was hoping would go to WWE. We talked about him in our first episode, I believe. And that was a little disappointing to me, but he turned heel and he's aligned himself with the Elite or the Young Bucks or whatever they're calling themselves right now. So I'm still anxious to see what happens there. And they also debuted Mercedes Moné, the former Sasha Banks, here in the last day or so. So that was pretty cool to see her there, even though I wish I would have seen her back in WWE instead. But I guess we'll see. We'll find out how it all works out. Hopefully those guys don't all get lost in the shuffle in AEW, because we all know that's kind of what happens a little bit. So we'll see.
Hey, does Primo still do shows?
Every month, my brother. I haven't been for a while, but I know they're still doing it and they're still promoting stuff constantly. So for those of you that know of Primo's Wrestling, Primo's Premier Pro Wrestling, please go check them out. They got shows every month. I'm sure you can find all their stuff on Instagram or Facebook. We could also share some links here for those that would like to have them. But yeah, we definitely want to promote Joey T and his group there. We want big things for Primo's. So
hopefully we can get on.
One more time, Graham.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get Joey T on for a podcast.
I want to get him on around WrestleMania. Hopefully we can do it before so we could get his predictions on it. That would be nice. I reached out to him, but I know he's a busy guy, so we'll see. Maybe we could all send a couple invites to him, and maybe he'll jump on it.
Do it before and after the WrestleMania.
That'd be cool. Yeah, we could do. Yeah, we could
like
get
a part 1 and part 2.
That's a great idea. I love it. So for those of you that are interested in that, be aware that we might be doing a part 1 and part 2 of our WrestleMania breakdown, and I'm excited for it. And with that, go ahead.
Oh, what was that? No, I was just saying my we're speaking of like local wrestlers. My homie's gonna go wrestle at the end of the month in Phoenix. And I was like thinking about Primos. I was like, man, I wonder if they're still doing it. I'd always tell them I don't know if you went to that one, but they were hitting each other with the light bulbs, and the glass got on one of the guy's eye, and he had to get hauled out by the ambulance and stuff. And they had barbed wire around the ropes and lighting each other on fire. It was
Oh yeah, that's all slave to the deathmatch stuff. When they do their slave to the deathmatch tournaments, shit gets crazy.
Yeah.
Hey, tell everybody the great first Primo show we went to.
So we're running low on time, but I'll get into it very, very quickly. So before I even knew about Primo's Wrestling, Doja was friends with Brokeback Billy, one of the referees there, one of the other wrestlers, who's since retired, but he's still a prominent figure in the community there. But Doja, for my birthday, actually took us to go and see a Primo show up in Golden at the Buffalo Rose. That was my first exposure to it. And we were so hyped up. We were so happy after the show that we were messing around in the parking garage, wrestling around. And they thought I don't know if it was just people that were walking by or who it was exactly, but they thought we were actually jumping one of our other friends that was there with us. And he actually ended up getting arrested and he went to jail. And we had to spend the whole night waiting outside of the damn police station in Jefferson County to get him out of jail, and that was a whole else. So my first experience, or our first Primos experience, was quite the story. But yeah, that's just in a nutshell.
That was one hell of a show, though, man. That guy was jumping off the second story, and then I'll never forget when she was fighting the guy. I think her name was Kiki or something.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, and everybody, the crowd's going, kick him in the pussy, kick him in the pussy, and I was like, oh my God, you hear what they're chanting down there? And it was just that was so epic. And then that was so funny. They thought, because we were all in red except for him, so they thought it was a gang jumping that happened, and we're like, no, we're just wound up from the wrestling show acting like idiots. So they ran everybody's name, and he had a warrant out, and he's like, see, that's why you guys should be messing around.
Yep, just a bunch of young kids having fun, and that's how we had most of our experiences, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking about the firework battle we had out in the fields by my apartments too, with the Roman candles and everything.
I can't wait. When we come up on our 4th of July episode, we're definitely gonna have to get into the firework wars of what was 2010, 2008, whenever it was. We'll have to get into some. But with that, I think that's the end of it. I think we're wrapping it up on Bob. Thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to episode 3 of the Dro Bro Show. And we have plenty more to come. Thank you guys for listening, and peace out. We'll see y'all next time.
Yeah. Later, everybody.
Dro Bros out.